This Is Why by Paramore. 10 songs, 36 minutes long. Paramore, one of those long-standing bands, long-standing groups. They've been around for what, 20 years at this point. Which is crazy, man. I feel old now. Um, one of the tried true sounds of all indie rock in the mid late aughts. Really popular then. They've had some interesting releases uh, as they've gotten older as a group and whatnot. I think we reviewed their last record, which I cannot remember the for the life of me. But anyways, um, but with this is why it is kind of polarizing actually that I've heard from like looking online with a lot of people. I actually don't mind it. I'm not a big Paramore fan. I never have been. I know a lot
Me
of like
neither. I mean, like
a
I
lot of my
liked.
friends a lot of my friends really like Paramore and stuff, especially like in the mid late aughts when they were pretty successful. Like a lot of people like the sound and whatnot. I never got into
Yeah,
that.
this is gonna sound loaded, and this is all I'll like hold my like beginning commentary to is I liked them a lot in middle school, and I don't mean that to sound as loaded as it does. But yeah, that
Your taste changed and whatnot, and they develop. So
yes, yeah, and also they fell into a kind of similar
they fell
curse a
into
lot
a
of
bit.
bands do, where like they don't evolve their sound as much as they need to.
Yeah, but I actually think with This Is Why they actually made a decent record with how it sounds.
Yeah.
There's still obviously like tried and true Paramore sounds, but I think this is their most mature project with how it is. I really like it. I was surprised on how it sounded because I was ready to go in hating it. Granted, this is their first project in a long time as well. But a lot of people, so there's some Paramore fans that really don't like it because they want to kind of stick with that sound, and there's a lot of people like us who, true music heads and just music fans in general that actually appreciate it because they're like, oh wow, like they didn't just slow it down, but they modernized their sound in a way and looking introspective without sounding dated, especially for a group that has been around for 2 decades at this point. They pushed it just a little bit forward, but stayed within this kind of modern box, no pun intended, of making short records but doing a lot with the little time they have. 10
Yeah.
songs, 36 minutes long, perfect length for this decade really. And what they do with that 36 minutes, they make a really good record. The title track, This Is Why, I think is a perfect opening for it. It's a really nice all indie sound that I like, where you can tell it's Paramore, right? By like the choruses and everything, the big group, but it's not cliche and it doesn't sound dated for what it is. I really like how they kind of like deconstructed the sound a bit in the middles of what with it, but then the big chorus was saying like "This is why," blah blah blah. I'm like, okay, so this is still like Paramore at the end of the day, but it's modern and it sounds up to date with how alternative rock, indie rock is starting to sound in this decade and whatnot.
Yeah,
Which
I was really pleased to hear that This Is Why sounded modern. Like it sound like
yeah,
I could place this as like a Folsy sounding project in like a good
and
way.
that's what I wanted to. This is
Yes.
exactly what I wanted to say, and I was glad you got that. We both came to that recognition because this sounds like Foles, and we both are huge Foles fans, right?
Yeah.
Like we really like how they sound, and that's exactly what it reminded me of. I'm like, oh wow, they actually like took a twist and made a Folsy Paramore sound, which is cool and different in that way. But that's what it reminded me of, and I really like that they went in that direction, especially with the opening track. Because the album is very understated, especially for a group like Paramore in the way, and I think that's why it's pretty polarizing. There's no like really big, crazy ballads like they've done before, but they definitely like still made what like example the second track, The News. Like that sounds like a Paramore track, but again, it's not cliche.
Yeah, the
So
lyrics, like the lyricism of Paramore hasn't changed. It's evolved, but this way they write songs, like the way that it's like definitely really visceral and well done for that
yeah,
sort of like
absolutely.
audience and time. And like fairly accessible in that way. Like it's not too deep, like you can kind of read it in surface level, but like it's really good at capturing emotions. That is still like tried and true Paramore, and that's still here. So that, especially in the news, in other tracks like later on through the record, that I'll wait to get to, you get, they're still definitely there, and they're still doing it like really successfully. That, and as an album, yeah, that's a really good idea for them to just keep it to 35 minutes, really distill it to the best stuff that is on the record, and you get something like really, really good out of it, I'd say.
Yeah, and the thing I love about this record is how it's developed, how it's paced. So you have two of the more faster paced songs right at the beginning with This Is Why in the News. And I'm glad they put that there actually at the beginning because running out of time, c'est comme quoi? I wait, say that.
C'est comme ça.
C'est comme ça, thank you. I'm too German for this, you know. We like to pronounce every syllable.
French pronounces as few syllables as possible. That's all I know about the language. I can't speak it.
It's the polar opposite of German. That's why. Anyways,
that I do speak, which is hilarious.
Which exactly you do. I need to get some more German speaking bands on here one day. But anyways, the way it's paced is brilliant because you have obviously like the more faster paced songs at the beginning, running out of time, and then like even in the middle, which you get my favorite track on here, which is Big Man Little Dignity. The way like it's developed is it blooms into this beautiful record to where like in the middle it gets to that indie sound that I really like, almost like a snail mail or even a wet leg style that we've heard the past couple of years, but they still sound like Paramore. So that's the very difficult thing to do as a band, especially when you've been together for so long, is how do we evolve? How do we continue? And I think that was an issue with Paramore for a lot of their records, especially early in their career, is they stuck with one sound and kind of just stayed with it, right? But with this record, This Is Why, especially like towards the middle and even the end of the record, it develops into this beautiful project where I'm like, wow, I'm actually impressed with how they did it. You know, a lot of bands, a lot of groups don't do that, especially older they get. I feel like they fall into that trope, or they get the Foo Fighters of we're so good, we do what we do, we're not going to change, right? But Paramore didn't, and I'm very pleased with it. Again, polarizing because a lot of music publications didn't enjoy it. A lot of music fans enjoyed it. Paramore fans themselves are like mixed. So it's very interesting where that's why I'm like, again, it's a really polarizing record, but to me, I'm glad that it is because they try to push the limits of themselves as a band and as an artist.
Yeah, it's less interesting to me, not because you're wrong, but because we do this podcast and this kind of is a similar thing. Anytime a band does a pivot that we generally, may not be ecstatic about, but we at least like and appreciate because we're music reviewers and we like when bands take a pivot and we like when they execute that as good as possible. A lot of times it's polarizing for fans because fans like bands for different reasons. A lot of times they like a certain sound or a certain era and they want more of a continuation of that. I think it's hard to do this like gatekeeping thing where it's like, oh, true fans do this. But like, no, I really say like if you really do like a band, you will hear them out and try to appreciate some of their like different pivots or different things they like. Not whether it's good or not, but I mean, definitely
appreciate.
Yeah. Like even if you're like, this is as far as I will take, because I always like, I say something and I see if I can test it in my head. And I think I can do this and say this out loud. If you are a Drake fan and you didn't like honestly never mind, like you can at least appreciate that he did something a little bit differently even if it wasn't executed well. Otherwise,
Beyonce the same thing. Because I had a lot of Beyonce fans. Well. That was executed extremely well, and there was still some fan. Like I talked to a lot of people, and there were some huge Beyonce fans I know that actually absolutely hate it. So it's interesting how that is, and again, it's just. When a band and a group do that, and this isn't even that big of a pivot for Paramore, right? It's just
still
them
safely in like
it's still safely
rock,
in the
like
same genre,
rock.
right? Exactly. It's just them now modernizing their sound and whatnot. But even with that, it's it's really interesting to hear how people respond to it. But whenever I get a response like that, I like it because that means that they're trying something. They're doing something different. They're not sticking to one particular sound or whatnot and making the same thing over and over again. And that's what we like this podcast for. And even for a group that we both never particularly cared for that much, like we can appreciate them and some stuff here or there, but we never like. I really like this record. I've listened to it like 3 times, and I like, damn, it's really good.
Yeah, mm, I wasn't super like I never went to any Paramore shows, but I definitely listened to a good amount of Paramore in middle school, and so
Mhm.
I had to listen to it my second, third time to make sure it wasn't just like the nostalgia going back. Like, no, it's a genuinely good record, and
That's a genuinely good record.
it sounds like my favorite alternative rock of the past 5 years. It's not necessarily like
Absolute.
pushing forward, but it's definitely modernized enough
Yeah.
to feel like, oh, Paramore is still hitting like with the best of them right now, and that's great
Yeah.
to see from a band that's been around truly like this long.
Exactly.
Solid, yeah.
Very, very solid. Yeah. Pleased with the effort. Arbitrary scale shit.
This always happens.
This does happen. Hold on. Let's think.
We do arbitrary scales every week on
Yeah,
Audioface because our review is our review. If we gave you a random ranking system or a letter or a number to actually describe what it would be like, then that would kind of like ruin everything we just said about the review itself. So this week, this is pretty good. This is gonna be pizza chains for the soup. I wasn't gonna get pizza, and now you're making me want pizza slightly.
Because everybody gets pizza for Super Bowl parties and stuff. So this is like, what kind of pizza do you get for the Super Bowl?
Okay, I have a perfect one for this. Are you ready?
Go ahead.
Kirkland.
Okay, shit. Get some Costco pizza. Damn.
Listen. All right, because everyone's gonna be like, "What's the insult there?" And I'm like, "No, this is not an insult.
No, that's good. Kirkland pizza goes hard."
Listen, it's not necessarily that outside of the box, so to speak, right? It's not a groundbreaking pizza, but you know exactly what you're gonna get, and the getting is good, and the getting is very affordable. Just like this album is not that much buy-in. It's 36 minutes. It's nice, easy to get into, and I think it's say maybe 80% crowd pleasing. I'd say real pizza connoisseurs, real pizza lovers will like enjoy it and appreciate it. Some people who maybe liked an old Costco recipe or something may be like, oh, I don't like this new one anymore. They changed the hot dogs too. I don't know, but you know, at the end of the day, it's good, reliable Costco pizza.
I like it. That goes hard. This is a mod pizza. This is, you only have like just a couple homies over, and you get some mod before the game, and everybody is pleased at the end of the day. And you're getting like some pizza. Everybody gets their own. Some people like the Dylan James. Some people like just to actually physically order their own stuff. So it gets the job done, and you're gonna get decent pizza at least. So.
Always order my own. There's like. To me, like mod pizza and Pyology and Blaze and a couple of others are just like all the same to me, except there's a Blaze a little bit closer to me, and they do vegan chorizo, and like most of the other ones don't do that. So it's
shit. That goes hard.
It's very good. It's very. Good.
I'm a smoke on that vegan chorizo pack next time I'm by in your hood.
Yeah, it's they're just Blaze pizzas are just in the most random spot, but like mod pizzas are not really near me in the the mod pizza desert of Los Angeles. Wah. Insert that Always Sunny from Philadelphia meme where both like Mac and Charlie are dressed as the Monopoly Man and they're just like crying.